Wednesday night, my world turned upside down. Life in our cozy Philly suburb had always felt steady, like a well-worn pair of boots. But that evening, everything I thought I knew unraveled. I got home earlier than usual to our house in Montgomery County, and the sound of Karen's footsteps drifted from our upstairs bedroom. Eager to surprise her, I climbed the stairs, but her voice slipped through the cracked door before I could knock. Her words sharpened as I got closer. "Oh, sweetie, today was unreal. I'm still buzzing." My heart stuttered. Karen never gushed like that about her part-time gig at the local Air Force Base. The door was slightly ajar, and something nudged me to peek inside. There she was, halfway through changing, her phone pinned to her ear as her slacks pulled at her ankles. Black lace panties, ones I'd never laid eyes on, hugged her hips. I nearly barged in, but her next words froze me. "Gotta run, he'll be home any minute. Catch you tomorrow, stud." She hung up, shrugged off her sweater, and stood there in a matching lace bra. As she stepped toward the bathroom, she paused at the mirror, tilting her head. From my angle, I had a clear view, and what I saw hit like a punch. A bruise on her left chest, one I sure as hell didn't leave. Her eyes widened as she noticed it. "Damn it," she muttered, "better hide this." The shower hissed to life, but I couldn't budge. My legs shook, the floor wobbling like a bad dream. I'm Greg Harper, married to Karen for 23 years. We've got 2 kids, Sophie, 19, and Liam, 18. I'm a process engineer at a plant outside Harrisburg, and until that night, I thought our life was rock solid. Picture perfect, even. Clearly, I'd been blind. Once my brain kicked back on, I slipped into the bedroom and grabbed her phone, hoping to check the last call. Locked. We'd never bothered with passcodes before. It hit me, I hadn't touched her phone in months. Her sweater was tossed on the bed, and when I picked it up, a faint whiff of aftershave, not mine, turned my stomach. That was it. I stormed to the garage, grabbed a small recorder, sealed her panties in a plastic bag, and hid everything behind some old tools. I tucked the recorder under a scarf in the closet, barely noticeable. Downstairs, her laptop sat open, screen glowing. I tried her email, password protected. Another gut punch. We'd always left our devices wide open. I couldn't confront her without hard proof. She'd just deny it. So I called her, knowing she was still in the shower. "Hey, hon," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "Work's a nightmare. I'm grabbing food out." After stashing the evidence, I drove to a quiet bar in Lancaster, a run-down joint perfect for brooding. The new bartender, Jenna, poured my whiskey soda. She was chatty, a single mom hustling to get by, and her small talk gave me a breather from the chaos in my head. I got home around 10 p.m., the house dark and still. Slipping into my robe, I heard Karen stir. "You're late," she mumbled. "Yeah, rough day," I shot back. "I'll make it up to you if you're feeling ignored." She sighed, rolling over. "Too wiped. Maybe in a few days." "Night, hon," her voice faded as she drifted off. I grabbed the recorder and played the footage. After her shower, Karen had stood at the mirror, frowning at the bruise before pulling on a thick sweatshirt, odd, since she usually slept in nothing. I saved the clip, wiped the device, and cranked the heat up a few degrees. Let's see how long she'd stick with that sweatshirt. Thursday morning, I left before she woke, dodging any small talk. I called in late to work and rang my buddy Vince, who'd been through the ringer when his wife cheated. "Vince," I said when he answered, "I think Karen's stepping out. I need help." "Damn, Greg, that's rough," he said. "Swing by, we'll sort it out." An hour later, I left his place with a plan and 5 tiny recorders, the same kind he'd used to catch his ex. Back home, I hid 4 recorders around the house and saved one for her car. While poking through her closet, I found clothes I didn't recognize, tight, flashy stuff, not her usual office wear. In a drawer, tucked way back, was a pair of torn lingerie, not worn out but ripped, like someone got impatient. My gut twisted. Later, I left her a voicemail. "Hey, stuck at work, home late." That night, I slipped the last recorder into her car. When she was asleep, I checked the recordings, nothing solid yet. Patience was all I had. By Sunday, after breakfast with the kids, I cut the Wi-Fi and left a note, "Food's in the fridge, out mowing the lawn." 2 hours later, Karen stomped outside, annoyed. "Greg, the internet's down." Inside, I faked troubleshooting while she paced, clearly on edge. When she stepped away, I installed a keylogger to track her emails and passwords. Once the Wi-Fi was back, I said, "Fixed it. Your laptop's running slow, though. Hit this button tonight to clean it up." She grinned. "Thanks, big guy. How do I repay you?" I smirked. "Scrub my truck." Her face fell. She'd expected something else. I kissed her cheek and walked off, reminding myself to play it cool. She couldn't suspect a thing until I had airtight evidence. That night, we watched movies with the kids. Karen was extra touchy, curling up close, dropping flirty hints. She was in the mood, no question. Halfway through, I got up for a drink and palmed one of her sleeping pills. Those things could knock me out in 45 minutes. 15 minutes later, she nudged me. "Hey, don't crash yet." I yawned. Worn out, calling it a night. Her face fell, especially when the kids begged for another flick. I hit the bed and passed out, no clue what Monday would bring. Sunday was supposed to be my sleep-in day, but at 5 a.m., I was wide awake, nerves jangling. Facing Karen felt impossible. Our usual morning closeness was a ritual I couldn't fake. I turned off her alarm, crept downstairs, and fired up my laptop. I had to be careful. Ignoring her completely would tip her off. As the keylogger loaded, I braced myself for what I'd find. I locked down my laptop with a password, stashing it in a tucked-away folder. Digging through Karen's email, I found over 500 messages, but 2 from 6 months back jumped out, sent by some guy named Bryce Nolan. His email was linked to a shady private domain, and at first, the messages looked like standard work chatter, maybe a coworker, or worse, the guy she was sneaking around with. I sorted her inbox by his name and spotted a message from 4 months ago, titled "Hey, gorgeous." It wasn't outright dirty, but the flirty vibe was undeniable. A quick search on the domain came up empty, just a bare-bones registration, no active site. Scrolling by date, I found 6 more emails from this Bryce guy, all sent yesterday. No wonder she'd been glued to her laptop. I opened the latest thread. Karen had griped about the marks he'd left on her, whining about how tricky it was to hide them from me. His reply was ice cold: "Stuff happens, deal with it. Forget your husband." 14 minutes later, she'd fired back, "I know you don't care about your wife, but I care about Greg. I never meant to hurt him. It's bad enough I've been keeping him at arm's length. I'm not meeting you Wednesday." Her so-called devotion didn't dull the sting of her betrayal. The next emails showed Bryce backpedaling, apologies, promises to be softer, even pitching a weekend escape. He sounded like a desperate kid. Karen's final reply hit like a brick: "Glad you get it. I only travel with my husband. No Wednesday. The bruise should fade soon, and then I'll focus on making things right with Greg." Making things right? As if that could erase what she'd done. Their emails spilled the rest. They'd been hooking up at a motel for at least 2 months, one message even naming the spot, room 301, leased long-term by Bryce's company, right near the bar I'd hit in Lancaster. Then, as I sat there, a new email popped in. Karen had just sent it: "I can't go a week without you. Let's meet Wednesday, 2 p.m. Just go easier this time." His reply came fast, dripping with excitement: "You're amazing. I'll make it unforgettable." That was enough. I needed help. I forwarded the incriminating emails to Vince and headed to the kitchen to whip up breakfast. Around 10 o'clock, Karen sauntered downstairs, stretching with a smug grin. "Thanks for letting me sleep in, hon," she said, pecking my cheek. "Just evening the score," I replied, faking a smile. "I did pass out early last night." She slid behind me, her lips grazing my ear. "Don't burn yourself out today, babe. I'll need you bringing your A game tonight." I brushed off the hint. "Almost done outside," I said, turning to leave. Her face flickered with worry, quickly hidden when she caught me looking. While sorting tools in the garage, Vince called. "Got a sec?" "Yeah," I said, stepping into the yard. "What's up?" "I saw the emails, man. I'm sorry." "At least I've got proof," I muttered. "Won't stand up in court, though." "True," Vince said. "Pics of her walking into that motel would help." "Not enough," I snapped. "I need something they can't dodge." Vince sighed. "I know the motel manager. If I say it's for a case, he'll let us in." "Perfect. Can we rig it up like you did with your ex?" Motion and audio cameras, he said. Streams to a receiver you can check from your truck. Done. Set it up, I said, no hesitation. And dig up everything on this Nolan guy. I want the full story. We'll have it ready by Monday or Tuesday, Vince said. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of control. Sunday dragged on quietly. Funnily enough, I started craving that closeness with Karen that night. Why not? Bryce might have poisoned it, but I could take it back on my terms. Later, tangled in the sheets, Karen curled into me and whispered, "Greg, I love you. You're the only man I'll ever want." I kissed her forehead, choking down my rage. How could she say that? Gonna wash up, I mumbled, slipping away. In the bathroom, my anger flared. Her words weren't just empty, they were calculated. When I got back, she was out cold. I slid into bed, silent, fuming. Monday morning, I was gone before dawn, heading to Vince's place. Got dirt, he said, ushering me in. Nolan's not just messing with Karen. He's a repeat offender, bringing different women to that same room. Thinks he's smooth, but using one spot? Dumb. My jaw clenched. Anything else? The manager hates him, Vince said. Says Nolan treats the staff like garbage, works from the room a few days a week, never before 11 a.m. Vince smirked. Let's move. We grabbed the surveillance gear and drove to the motel in Lancaster. Vince pitched me as part of the investigation. The manager, Derek, didn't blink. Can't stand creeps like Nolan, he growled, handing us a key. He acts like he owns the place. Mind if we hide a receiver nearby? Vince asked, nodding at a storage room. Derek shrugged. I'll get you a key. Nobody uses that spot. We called Nolan's room, no answer. Perfect. We knocked twice, then unlocked the door. The room was empty. I froze, staring at the messy bed where Karen had stabbed me in the back. My stomach churned, but I pushed through. 2 hours later, we'd hidden cameras and recorders. As we packed up, I spotted a charging dock on the desk. Check this, I said. He must plug his laptop in here. Vince nodded. If he steps out for lunch, I can sneak in and plant spyware. I'll stake this place out daily if I have to, I said. But first, let's slap a tracker on his car. No surprises. Easy, Greg, Vince said. We'll nail him. No slip-ups. Agreed, I said. Let's grab food. My treat. Across the street's good, Vince suggested. Solid grub, friendly bartender. Works for me, I said. The bar was quiet. Jenna, the bartender, grinned as we walked in, but when she saw Vince, her face lit up like she'd seen a ghost. Dropping her rag, she rushed over, ignoring me. Vince, she squealed, throwing her arms around him. You're back. He hugged her, chuckling. Jenna, you're looking good. Glad you're doing all right. Getting there, she said, laughing. Thanks to you. I cleared my throat. Hi. They both laughed. Jenna patted my arm. I liked you right off, Greg. Knowing you're Vince's buddy? Even better. I grinned at Jenna, trying to keep things light. Bit of a wild card, but you're good people, I said. She chuckled, shaking her head. Maybe that's just how guys are. As she moved to serve other folks, she kept swinging back to our corner to chat. I got to know her better. She was hustling to save for nursing school, set to start in 6 months. Her grit was something else. By 2 p.m., the bar in Lancaster was dead, just me, Vince, and Jenna left. She glanced around, shrugging. Day shift is always quiet, she said. No tips, but I can crack open my books. Talking with you two's a nice change of pace. We kept the vibe easy for another hour until Jenna's face turned heavy. She looked at Vince, her voice dropping. I'll tell him. Vince gave a slow nod, and Jenna turned to me, her expression tight with feeling. If we're gonna be real friends, you need the truth. You might bail after this, and I'd get it, but I want you to hear it from me. Her eyes welled up as she grabbed Vince's hand. I met Vince when he busted me. He tossed me into a grimy holding cell. I lost it when I saw the camera in the corner, but he didn't flinch, just locked the door and walked away. Then something shifted. He came back, saw me bawling, and stopped. Her voice broke. He started shouting, said I was flushing my life down the drain, and called me a fool. Nobody's ever laid into me like that, but it sank in. I crumpled onto that nasty cot and sobbed like a kid. Vince just sat beside me and asked one word, why? She glanced at Vince, her tone softening. For the first time, I spilled everything. Didn't hold back. I don't know how long I rambled, but he never cut me off. When I finally shut up, he patted my shoulder, locked the door, and left me there for 12 hours. Her lips trembled. Next morning, he took me to court. My lawyer barely tried, just went through the motions. The judge was about to lock me up when Vince stood up, full uniform, cool as ice. He told the court prison wouldn't fix me, but rehab could. Jenna gave a dry laugh. Everyone stopped dead. I was a repeat screw-up, guilty as sin, but here was this hard-ass cop sticking his neck out. The judge wavered but gave me a choice, 90 days in rehab or 4 years in a cell. If I blew it, I was done. I didn't think twice, rehab it was. She turned to Vince, whispering, I've stayed clean since. Stepping back, she added, I'm not on the streets anymore, but I'm still grinding. It's the only way I can bank enough for school and take care of my little girl. If that changes how you see me, I understand. Before she could say more, Vince and I pulled her into a hug. Long as you keep pushing, I've got your back, Vince said, steady. I nodded. Glad we crossed paths, Jenna. You've got a friend in me. She held on to us, silent tears streaking her face. That evening, Karen came home with Italian takeout from a spot in Harrisburg. She leaned in for a kiss, but I dodged, grabbing the bags instead. Perfect, I said, we're starving. Her smile wavered, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. I kept my tone breezy. Why don't you freshen up while I set the table? Her face paled, but she nodded and slipped into the bathroom. Dinner was heavy. The kids sensed the vibe but stayed quiet. Karen poked at her food, tossing out clumsy small talk I mostly ignored. Then it hit me, I was screwing up. Sunday night had meant something to her, and acting cold now would tip her off. I forced a grin. Sorry, work's been a beast. Let's start fresh. How was your day? Relief washed over her, and she dove into a chatty recap of errands and office drama. I nodded, smiled, played along like everything was fine. Later, after she'd gone to bed, I checked the recorders, nothing new. I nudged the thermostat up, got ready for bed, and slid under the sheets, keeping my back to her. Night, hon, she murmured. Without turning, I asked, why the heavy sweatshirt? It's not cold. Silence, then a soft reply, just been feeling chilly at night. I rolled over, pulling her close. Her skin was clammy with sweat. You okay? I asked, faking worry. Not really, she whispered. My hand grazed her chest, brushing where the bruise had been. I can think of a few ways to heat things up, I said, voice low. She stiffened. Greg, I'm sorry, I'm just wiped. I let go. All right. Karen curled into me. Last night was incredible, but today drained me. Wednesday's light, though, let's make it special, okay? Sure, I said, tone flat. Tuesday morning, I was out before dawn. Mid-morning, Vince called. Tracker's live, he said. Slapped a GPS on Nolan's car last night. Here's the login. I checked it right away. Nolan's car was parked across town in York. I told my boss I had to run an errand and drove home to check the recorders. The first one hit like a freight train. Karen was on the phone with her friend Lauren. Lore, I had the best night this weekend, she gushed. Lauren laughed. With Bryce? No, Karen said, dreamy. With Greg. Sunday night was unreal, like we were young again. What changed? Lauren asked, curious. No clue, Karen admitted. Nothing fancy, it's just, worked. His touch, the way he held me, it was perfect. Better than Bryce. Lauren teased, oh, really? Karen didn't miss a beat. No contest. Greg makes love to me, I feel whole. Bryce? It's just a rush. Fun, sure, but I'd never want Greg to treat me like that. Lauren chuckled. It's the thrill, the edge. That's why I started seeing Trent Baxter last year. Karen sighed. Trent Baxter, huh? My head spun. Lauren was cheating too. For a second, I wondered if I should tip off her husband, Paul. Would it crush him like this was crushing me? I'd assumed Paul knew about Bryce and stayed quiet, but maybe he was in the dark like me. He deserved the truth, just as I did. I decided I'd share the recording with Paul, but only after I dealt with Nolan. Another call from early Tuesday had a different tone. "Hey, Lore," Karen answered, voice low. "You sound off," Lauren said. "Everything all right?" Greg noticed the sweatshirt and the locked bathroom door, Karen muttered. "He asked last night." I said I was cold, but the room was roasting, and I was sweating buckets. "I don't think he bought it." "Did he push?" Lauren asked, softer. "He tried," Karen said, "but I couldn't let him see the mark." I'd promised Karen we'd have a big night Wednesday, but she didn't seem convinced. We lay there after, like two people who barely knew each other. Her sigh hung heavy, and the worst part? I couldn't shake the thought that she was thinking about Bryce, not me. That was it. I saved the recording, slammed my laptop shut, and drove straight to the motel in Lancaster. Nolan's car was parked out front. It was lunchtime. I crossed the street to the bar, but Jenna wasn't there. Glancing through the window, I spotted Nolan alone in a corner booth, skimming a menu. This was my shot. I headed to his motel room, knocked twice, and slid the key in. Empty. Ignoring the messy bed, I went for the desk. His laptop was open, some accounting software on the screen. I plugged in my flash drive and installed a keylogger, skipping the screenshot option and zeroing in on emails, browser history, and stored files, especially his financial records. If Nolan was mixed up in anything shady, I'd find it. Once the keylogger was running, I set up remote desktop access and slipped in a lightweight control program, masked under his company's domain. It'd look like he'd installed it himself from the motel's Wi-Fi. I hid the program icon, switched the screen back to his accounting app, and slipped out quietly. Back at the office in Harrisburg, I powered through my usual work, feeling oddly steady. Having control was addictive. That evening, I got home in a good mood, helping Sophie and Liam with their homework and chatting with Karen like nothing was wrong. She seemed wary at first, like she was waiting for a fight, but as I kept up the act, her tension eased. Around 9:30 p.m., she stretched and flashed a small smile. "I'm hitting the sack," she said softly. "All right," I replied, eyes on my laptop. "Got a bit of work to wrap up. See you in the morning." "Sure," she said. "Rest up," I thought darkly, "gotta be ready for your side guy tomorrow." There was hours of data to dig through, recordings, spyware logs, intercepted calls, but not tonight. Instead, I pulled the footage from Karen's dash cam, downloading it quietly before slipping the recorder back into her car. By the time I crawled into bed, she was either out cold or pretending to be. I perched on the edge of the mattress, my mind already spinning about what Wednesday would bring. Karen was up before me, which played into my hands. The thought of her sneaking off to cheat again twisted my gut, but knowing I'd soon have proof only sharpened the ache. Downstairs, she was dishing out breakfast when I walked into the kitchen, dressed sharp for work. She shot me a bright grin. "Right on time, hon." "Morning," she chirped. I mumbled back, grabbing coffee. Her smile wavered. "You're usually perkier," she said. "Now you know how I feel most days," I replied, ice in my tone. She blinked through, then forced a laugh. The kids shuffled in, and she switched to mom mode, rattling off school plans and errands. I stayed quiet, catching her nervous glances. When she set my plate down, she paused, eyes narrowing. "Greg, something off?" I shrugged. Hard to pin down. Without warning, I pulled her into a tight hug. She melted into me, sighing against my chest. "I love you," I murmured. "Can't picture life without you. No woman I'd rather be close to." Her pulse raced. "Of course, Greg, I love you too," she whispered, eyes glistening. "I'll prove it tonight, I'll wear you out." I stepped back and walked out the door, not saying another word. I drove to the motel, downloaded the surveillance footage, my head a mess. How was I supposed to act normal knowing what I'd uncover? While the files transferred, I paced our Montgomery County house, restless and bitter. Facing Karen tonight felt impossible. I started with Nolan's emails. Within hours, I had a clear picture. He ran 3 companies, each peddling overpriced gear to military bases, big corporations, and government offices. He was juggling affairs with 5 women, Karen included. I copied his accounting files and snagged login details through the keylogger. 6 corporate credit cards popped up, full account numbers listed in expense reports. Then I checked his phone calls. One jumped out, a base employee griping about duplicate serial numbers on shipments. Nolan snapped, "Fix it. The new audit system's a pain." Another call showed his dirty side. A desperate supplier begged for a contract. Nolan cut him off. $6,000 gets you $100,000 in sales. Just hike your prices 2% to cover it. The supplier hesitated. "How do I pay you?" "I'll tell you where to meet," Nolan said, smooth as silk. 2 days, your deal's greenlit. The worst call was with a base purchasing officer feeding Nolan secret bid prices, straight up insider trading. And then there were the personal calls. Karen's voice came through one, way too cozy. Even after everything, it stung. I sorted it all into folders, one for Karen, one for Nolan, video, audio, documents, backups for each. It was time to bring in Vince. When Vince picked up, I laid it all out. He listened, then sighed. "Greg, this won't hold up in court, but it helps my work. We've been tracking procurement issues at the base for months, missing stock, duplicate serials, shoddy materials. You need to see this yourself," I said. "Can you come to my office?" "No, my place, 2 p.m., he said. "We'll go through it all, then grab dinner and drinks." His tone sharpened. "I'm driving, you're drinking." "Deal," I said. The plan was simple, get plastered with Vince and dodge Karen till morning. Then it hit me, it was almost 2 p.m., her meet-up time with Nolan. I called her phone, straight to voicemail, naturally. She wouldn't want to talk now. I left a short message, heading to Vince's, back late. With time to kill, I dug into more footage. Monday morning, Nolan had greeted another woman with a kiss. They barely crossed the threshold before tumbling onto the bed. I saved the clip. Tuesday, Nolan had been with 2 different women, morning and afternoon. I copied those 2. At 2 p.m., Vince swung by our place in Montgomery County, and we poured over the evidence, knocking back drinks until the night blurred. That's the last thing I recall. Thursday morning, I woke around 10, head throbbing like a drum. The house was dead quiet. On the kitchen table was a note. "Since you were too plastered in Harrisburg to set your alarm, don't expect me to play wake-up call. Sort it out." I smirked, perfect. An annoyed Karen was easier to dodge. I called in sick and drove to the motel in Lancaster to grab the surveillance footage, the one I'd been dreading. On the way back, Vince called, his voice taut. "The investigation's moving fast," he said. "The supplier who paid Nolan's bribe agreed to wear a wire. We've mapped out how he and his crew pull off their scams. A prelim report's already on the base commander's desk." He paused. "Military police will hit Nolan's office, motel room, and house soon. Make sure your keyloggers are wiped." "Already done," I said. "Good. The raid's about 10 days out. Can you hold off confronting Karen till then?" I was about to agree when Vince dropped a bomb. "The leak feeding Nolan insider info? It's coming from purchasing. Karen's now a person of interest." I almost laughed. "That's nuts. Karen doesn't steal." But then I froze. Hadn't I once thought she'd never cheat? Swallowing my anger, I promised to check in tomorrow. Back home, I dove into the motel footage. Hours of nothing dragged by until the timestamp hit 12:40 p.m. My pulse raced as I hit play. Nolan swung the door open, and a second later, Karen stepped in, no hesitation. They locked lips, kissing like kids in a rush. "Go gentle this time," she murmured against his mouth. Clothes hit the floor, and they collapsed onto the bed. My vision swam as tears stung my eyes. Thursday night was a tightrope. The kids were out, and Karen and I moved around each other like ghosts. Once the house went quiet, I pulled the recorder from her car and sifted through the new audio. Sure enough, there was Lauren's voice. "So, how'd it go?" she asked, eager. "Bryce was all right," Karen sighed. "A bit rough, but you know he loves our time together." "And Greg?" "Nothing," Karen said. "He got trashed with Vince, stumbled and reeking of whiskey, and passed out without a word." Lauren chuckled. "Bad timing?" "No," Karen muttered. "I practically threw myself at him last night, even told him I'd wear him out. He didn't bite, just left for work without a kiss. Think he suspects anything? No way, Karen scoffed. I only see Bryce when Greg's at the office. If anything, he's just moping because we've barely been close lately. This is his way of getting back at me. I saved the file, shaking my head. Let her think she's in the clear. The longer she felt safe, the better. That night, she brushed against me more than once, her touches lingering. I stayed ice cold. When I finally slid into bed around 3 a.m., she was snoring softly. Sorry, Lauren, wrong guess. Friday morning, I skipped breakfast, grabbed my forensic kit after work, and hit the motel to collect the latest footage. Back home, I transferred everything to an encrypted drive and ran the test, positive, no surprise. Watching the videos was like twisting a knife in my chest. One clip stopped me cold, Jenna, my bartender friend, walking into Nolan's room. He handed her a stack of cash, and they headed straight for the bed. Jenna? I sat there, stunned. Two other recordings stood out. One caught Karen in a flirty call with Nolan, all giggles and teasing, agreeing to another meetup. The other was brutal, Karen arriving at his room, kissing him hungrily before dropping to her knees. No warmth, no lingering, just cold efficiency. I saved it all, organized into folders, and called Vince. Urgent, I said. We gotta talk. Come to my place, he said. Too risky here, Karen might be home. Your office, I countered. 10 minutes later, I handed him a flash drive. 3 key files. The first one's rough. I'll watch in the car, he said. An hour later, he slid into the passenger seat, face grim. Bar. Now. I need answers from Jenna. Jenna was behind the counter when we walked in. Her smile faltered as she saw us. Without a word, she poured 2 whiskey sodas, hugged Vince, and gripped my hand. Hey, guys, she said, her cheer forced. Vince didn't mince words. Jenna, what's going on? Her face crumpled. You were right, Vince. I caught something. That's why I'm quitting the bar. Can't risk passing it on. My stomach sank. Her voice turned bitter. So much for nursing school. That's done. Like hell it is, Vince and I said, almost in sync. She blinked, caught off guard. You've clawed your way too far for this, Vince said, squeezing her hand. Since the day I busted you, you've been fighting to rebuild. We're not letting you quit. I nodded. We'll figure it out. School's still on the table. Tears glistened as she looked between us. I don't deserve friends like you, but I can't let you save me. I smiled. Tough luck, you don't get a say. For the first time that night, she let out a small, broken laugh, real and raw. The air lightened, but we all knew the worst wasn't over. Close to midnight, I dragged myself to bed. Before we'd parted, Vince promised to pull strings and see if he could get Jenna a job in the base's purchasing department. Word was, openings were coming soon. Saturday crawled by. Karen and I barely spoke during our usual movie night. She plopped between Sophie and Liam instead of next to me, her smug look screaming she thought she had the upper hand. She turned in early, leaving me free to check the latest recordings. Most were duds until I found a new email from Nolan, thanks for Friday. Can't wait for Wednesday. Sunday was just as slow. That night, I noticed Karen still changed in the bathroom, clearly hiding something. She knew our marriage was crumbling beyond repair. She climbed into bed with a deliberate shove, like she wanted me to know she was there. I didn't budge. Eventually, she sighed and turned away. Monday afternoon, Vince called with an update. Everything's set, he said. The raid goes down. Next Monday, Vince said. Can you hold off confronting Karen till then? We can't risk Nolan getting jumpy. Yeah, I agreed. I'll tell her I'm heading out of town for work, Wednesday to Sunday. Smart, Vince replied. Keep it smooth. Without a second thought, I booked a room right above Nolan's at the Lancaster Motel for 5 nights. That evening at dinner in our Montgomery County home, I dropped the news casually. Flying out Wednesday morning, I said, poking at my food. Back Sunday night. Sophie frowned. Another trip? You were gone last month too. Yeah, Dad, Liam chimed in. Do you have to? I shrugged. Job's a job. If I could stay home, I would. Karen barely blinked, no shock, no frown, just a blank stare. Figures. Tuesday dragged on intense silence. I packed a small duffel and waited till everyone was asleep to check the recorders. One conversation stood out, a morning call between Karen and Lauren. "Lore, Greg's screwing everything up," Karen snapped. "Bryce or Greg?" Lauren asked, confused. "Greg," Karen growled. "We've been fighting or dodging each other for days. Now he's leaving again, Wednesday through Sunday. How am I supposed to handle both guys in one day?" "Damn," Lauren muttered. "Karen, forget the fling for a sec. Fix things with Greg before you blow it all." Karen sighed, heavy. "I know, but if he'd stop acting like a jerk, I'd rock his world. Why's this gotta be so messy? Unbelievable, she was pinning this on me. Classic. I saved the file anyway. Wednesday morning, I left the house like I was off to work but checked into the motel by noon. 2 laptops hummed on the desk, one for live feeds, one for storage. At 1 p.m. sharp, Karen's car rolled into the lot. She grabbed her laptop from the passenger seat and headed straight for Nolan's room. Switching to the live feed, I watched her knock. Nolan opened the door with a smirk, and they kissed before she stepped inside. "Hold up," Karen said, beelining for the desk. "Let me check my emails first." They worked quietly for 10 minutes until she shut her laptop and grinned. "All set." Nolan didn't miss a beat. "Good. Now for the real reason you're here." Clothes hit the floor fast. I muted the audio, my stomach twisting, and turned to my second laptop, remotely accessing both their devices while they were distracted. By 5 p.m., they started stirring, giving me nearly 4 hours of uninterrupted access. As they roused, I logged out quickly but kept the live feed running. Karen glanced at the clock and nudged Nolan. "Bryce, it's past 5. We dozed off." He groaned, rubbing his face. "Crap, I told my wife we'd have dinner tonight." Karen swatted his arm, playful. "Don't mention her. I hear enough about your family. Don't act like you're not part of my world," he teased, pulling her close. Her face softened. "Sorry. I love my family, but sometimes I get jealous." Nolan ran his fingers through her hair. "I like pretending you're mine." Karen gave a weak smile. "I chose to be here, but I love Greg. I can't risk losing him. I gotta fix things at home." Nolan nodded. "Same. My family's everything." As he stood, he winced. "Damn, my shoulders are killing me." Karen gasped. "Oh no, Bryce, did I scratch you?" "I didn't mean to." He cursed, checking his back in the mirror. "Hell, Karen, you tore me up." Her eyes welled. "I'm sorry. We just get carried away." Clearly, he grumbled, yanking on his shirt. "Let's get dressed." "I gotta go." They dressed fast. Nolan kissed her cheek, squeezed her waist, and whispered, "See you soon, gorgeous." Karen kissed him back and left. From my window, I watched her trudge to her car. To anyone else, she looked like a woman leaving a long shift. I knew better. She'd pay. Thursday and Friday blurred as I juggled work and my secret mission, each step pulling me closer to the fallout. Thursday afternoon, I intercepted a call from Karen to Nolan. "Bryce," she started, voice tight, "this has been fun, but I'm done. I can't keep this up." "What?" Nolan snapped. "Why now?" "It's too messy," Karen said, firm. "Greg's pulling away, and I won't lose my marriage over this. We're through." They bickered for a few minutes before Nolan sighed, defeated. "Fine. Talk soon." "No," Karen said softly. "Goodbye, Bryce." She hung up, done. Late Friday night, I wrapped things up. I transferred files, wiped logs, and disabled the keyloggers. I accessed Karen's computer through Nolan's, making sure the login traced back to the motel's IP, a final nail in the coffin. I forwarded all of Nolan's active bid proposals to Karen's work email. To any investigator, it'd look like she was leaking sensitive info. Sunday afternoon, I got back to an empty house in Montgomery County. I collected the voice recorders, wiped them clean, and packed them with the one from Karen's car for Vince. After unpacking, I poured a stiff whiskey, trying to steady my nerves. Soon, Sophie and Karen rolled in from the grocery store. Liam helped unpack, and the evening passed quietly. Nobody brought up my business trip. Monday morning, I could barely focus at my job in Harrisburg. A 10 a.m. call from our family doctor's office shattered what little concentration I had. "Mr. Harper," the receptionist said, her tone unusually sharp, "Dr. Coleman needs you in right away." My gut twisted. "Why? What's going on?" She paused. "He'll explain. Can you come today?" "Fine," I said, "I'm on my way." When I walked into Dr. Coleman's office, his face was stone cold. "Greg, we need to run tests. This is serious." "Tests for what?" I snapped. "Just spit it out, document." He sighed, pulling off his glasses. "Karen came in this morning, feeling off. Tests showed she has 3 sexually transmitted infections." I went numb. "She swore you were her only partner," he went on, "so we figured you might be the source." My voice felt like it belonged to someone else. "Test me. Now." The staff wouldn't meet my eyes as they set up the lab. A nurse drew blood, the needle feeling sharper than it should. An hour later, Dr. Coleman came back, shaking his head. "Greg, you're completely clean." "I'm sorry, we assumed wrong. Karen wasn't honest." I let out a slow breath, fury bubbling under my skin. "Thanks, document. We haven't been close in weeks. Now I know why." He handed me my results just as my phone buzzed. "Sophie." "Excuse me," I said, picking up fast. "Sophie, what's wrong?" Her voice cracked with sobs. "Dad, Mom said you cheated and gave her an STD. How could you?" My hand tightened around the phone. "Sophie, I'm at the doctor's. I'm clean. Here, talk to Dr. Coleman." Without missing a beat, Coleman took the phone. "Sophie, this is Dr. Coleman. Your father tested negative for everything. He didn't pass anything to your mother." A moment later, Sophie's muffled cries came through. "Dad, I'm so sorry." She sounded so sure, we believed her. "It's all right, kiddo," I said, softening. "Tell Liam the truth, but don't say a word to your mom. I'll be home soon." At the front desk, the receptionist silently slid my test results across, then, almost as an afterthought, pushed another envelope toward me. "Must have messed up," she said with a faint smirk. "Looks like I accidentally included your wife's results too." I nodded, catching her drift. Karen wouldn't find a friendly face when she came back for treatment. Pulling into our Montgomery County driveway, I saw extra cars, Karen's parents. Great. Inside, the air was thick with rage. My father-in-law, Walt, towered over me, his voice booming. "You idiot," he roared. "You stepped out on my daughter and gave her a disease? I'll crush you." He was a big guy, still strong from his days hauling freight. I had seconds before he swung. I stepped closer, locking eyes. "If what you believe is true, you'd have every right to deck me. But it's not." His brows furrowed, hesitating. "Prove it. Quick." I handed him my test results without a word. He read them once, then twice, his anger melting into shock as Karen's wails grew louder behind him. Finally, he looked up. "You're clean. My daughter's got an STD, someone else gave it to her. She lied. She cheated." "Exactly," I said, low. "We haven't been together in weeks. That's why I'm clean." He gripped the papers, veins popping. "Greg, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. Thanks for hearing me out," I muttered. "My marriage might be done, but at least you know the truth." He nodded, shoulders sagging. "We gotta talk." I grabbed his collar, shoving him against the table. "No. This happens my way. She's your daughter, but she's my wife, and she dragged you and the kids into this mess. Sophie called me crying. I don't even know what Liam's thinking." I let him go, stepping back. "You're only here because Karen pulled you in. This is my family. Stay out of it. Clear?" His jaw tightened, then eased with grudging respect. "Yeah, Greg. Clear." We walked into the living room together. The second Karen saw me, she exploded, her voice clashing with her mother's frantic yelling. In the corner, Liam sat hunched, tears streaking silently down his face. Sophie darted past her grandfather, throwing herself into my arms. "Dad, I love you," she whispered. Liam hesitated for a split second, then stood and joined us. They clung to me as Karen sobbed and her mother spewed insults. Sophie's hand brushed the papers I held. "Is this the proof?" I nodded, jaw tight. Without a word, she took the reports and pulled Liam closer. They scanned the words together. Greg Harper, negative. Karen Harper, positive for 3 STDs. Their eyes locked, and they hugged me tighter. Sophie spun around, fury in her face. Mom, she snapped, how can you still scream at Dad? He didn't betray us, you did. Karen's knees gave out, and she crumpled onto the couch, sobbing harder. Sophie turned to her grandmother, shoving the reports into her shaking hands. The older woman's eyes widened as she read, her posture wilting under the truth. Karen looked up, wild-eyed, defensive. Why is everyone acting like I'm the bad guy? This isn't fair. Sophie stepped forward, holding the papers high. You lied to us, Mom. You cheated on Dad. You betrayed our family. Karen gasped, her face twisting with anger. She lunged, hand raised to slap Sophie, but Sophie was quicker, grabbing her mother's wrist with ease, her glare icy. Don't you dare, she hissed. You lost the right to act like my mom the second you tried to ruin our family. The room went still. Sophie stood firm, her voice steady despite a faint quiver. You'll always be my mom, and I'll always love you, she said, but you turned us against Dad with lies. I'll never forgive you for that. Without waiting for a reply, she spun and hugged me tight. Liam followed, his silence louder than any words. Across the room, Karen sat frozen, eyes wide, desperation radiating off her. Kids, please, she begged, her voice breaking. Your dad gave me those infections weeks ago. He probably got treated behind my back. I begged him to be close, and he kept shutting me out. Her panic surged. I never cheated. He's lying to make me the villain. I've been loyal since the day we met. A heavy silence swallowed the room. My father-in-law, Walt, glowered, his fists balling up. It was time to end this. I stepped toward Karen, ignoring everyone else. Last chance, I said. Tell the truth, or I show the proof. For a second, her lip trembled, then she snapped like a trapped animal. How dare you, she screamed. You've got nothing because I did nothing. Show this so-called proof. I didn't flinch. Fine. I walked to the cabinet, grabbed my laptop, and hooked it to the TV. Karen's confidence wavered. While she'd been with Nolan, I'd used one of his company credit cards to register a domain and build a website. Time to unveil it. Staring her down, I said, You cut things off with Bryce last Thursday, right? Her sneer returned. You're delusional. There's never been anyone but you. I opened an email and projected it on the screen. Recognize this guy? Bryce Nolan. Her face went pale. No, he sent me a link to his site, I said, calm. You're the star. Turning to Sophie and Liam, I added, You two should head upstairs. Sophie crossed her arms, defiant. No. She dragged us into this. We're staying. Liam glanced at the screen. Dad, if you send us away, I'll find the site in 10 seconds. I sighed, he'd already caught the URL. All right, I muttered, clicking the link. The screen lit up, a sleek black background. A cold male voice spoke, Welcome to the lovers of Bryce Nolan. Karen gasped as a slideshow of women appeared, each photo suggestive but clothed, unmistakably intimate. The voice went on, Here are the married women I've charmed. Every moment's recorded. Like what you see. Message for high-def footage. None of them know they're filmed. The fourth image stopped everyone cold, it was Karen. She wore a navy blazer and skirt, one of her usual work outfits. The cursor hovered over her picture as the voice said, Meet Karen, mid-50s, curvy. Plenty of footage available. Click for previews of Karen in action. Full videos on request. The room fell dead silent. Karen stood like a ghost, face ashen, hands shaking. Her mouth opened, then closed, no sound escaping. She whimpered, staring at the screen. No, this isn't real. I clicked her image. 8 video thumbnails popped up, each labeled with dates and short descriptions. Karen's eyes widened, she recognized the scenes, the moments, the undeniable truth. Her legs buckled, and she collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Her mother rushed to her side while Walt stood stiff, like he'd been gut-punched. Liam's fists clenched. Sophie's face twisted with rage. Think we've seen enough, I said, stepping back. Not enough, Sophie snapped, eyes blazing. Videos can be faked. I want the truth. Before I could stop her, she grabbed the mouse and clicked the first video. The screen flickered, then played. The room filled with heavy breathing and murmured promises. Sophie recoiled, hand covering her mouth. Oh my God, this is sick. How could you? Liam stood silent, his whole body shaking. Karen sobbed into her mother's shoulder, the weight of her lies crushing her. Sophie clicked the next video, and Karen's cries grew louder, the reality sinking in. She reached for the third thumbnail, but I grabbed her hand. Enough. She froze, then nodded, tears streaming down her face. Without a word, she threw her arms around me. Liam joined us, silent but seething. Karen's parents stood helpless as Karen clung to her mother, broken beyond repair. After a long pause, I spoke. Why, Karen? She choked on her sobs. I don't know. I'm so sorry, Greg. God, I'm so sorry. I exhaled and handed Liam the car keys. Kids, get out for a bit. Dinner's on me. Need cash? Liam shook his head. We're good. Back later. Sophie wiped her face. Just grabbing my bag. Once they left, I turned to Karen and her parents. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Karen, we need to talk. You too, I nodded at her parents. Stay. She'll need you. I wandered the streets of our Harrisburg suburb, the cool air doing little to ease my nerves but sharpening my focus. When I got back to our Montgomery County house, the silence was eerie. Everyone sat around the kitchen table, faces drained and hollow. Karen stood the second I walked in. Greg, she murmured, eyes red and puffy, thank you for coming back. I nodded and motioned for her to sit. We've got a bigger problem. Her face paled. I leaned over the table. Nolan was arrested this afternoon, I said flatly. Her breath caught. Vince's investigation blew the whole thing open, fraud, blackmail, kickbacks. His operation's done. Silence stretched across the room. Karen's eyes flickered, tears pooling fast. Her parents sat stiff, faces like they'd been carved from granite. His office, his companies, even the motel room in Lancaster, raided, I said, my gaze fixed on her. 2 more arrests came after. One guy from logistics, another from procurement. I leaned in. And there's more. Vince found emails from your account, leaking contract specs and bid details straight to Nolan. Her head snapped up, eyes wild. That's a lie. I never did that. Her mother's voice broke. How can we trust you now, Karen? Karen's sobs grew louder. I let out a heavy breath, bone-tired. You're not in custody because you're my wife. Vince pulled strings to give you time. But if you're not at his office tomorrow morning, they'll issue a warrant. I edged closer. If you're guilty, you're facing federal charges. Her scream tore through the room. I didn't do it, Greg. I lied, I cheated, I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe prison's fair for the rest, but I never leaked classified info. I studied her, searching for a hint of deceit. Karen, I said softly, did you ever bring your laptop to his motel room? Her face crumpled. Yes, sometimes. I worked there, faking personal days. I'm so sorry, Greg. My jaw tightened. Personal days to cheat? She flinched but nodded. Did you ever leave the laptop open, connected to the base's network, while you showered or napped? Her breath caught. Yes. Oh my God, I didn't think, how could I be so stupid? Without a word, I grabbed her laptop, powered it on, and cut the Wi-Fi instantly. I had to act fast. One of my last moves while remotely accessing her system was setting up an automatic email blast to make it look like Nolan had sent out sensitive files. With the internet off, those emails hadn't gone through. Feigning confusion at the login screen, I asked, "What's your password?" Her face twisted with shame. "Nolan," she whispered. I let the sting of her betrayal hang there before speaking. "Karen, he installed remote access software. He could see everything, control everything." Her head jerked up, horror etched deep. "He set me up?" "Looks like he wanted more than just you," I said. I leaned over the laptop, pretending to dig. "Good thing I killed the Wi-Fi," I muttered. "There's a scheduled task here, set to fire off emails to your whole contact list, family, friends, coworkers." Karen slumped into her chair, face buried in her hands. "Oh my God," He's punishing me for ending it. Her mother wrapped an arm around her, murmuring empty comforts. I sighed. This might clear you. 3 heads snapped up. Walt, who'd once been ready to deck me, now looked more lost than angry. This shows Nolan had remote access, I explained. If you're innocent, the logs will tie the leaks to his IP address. Karen wiped her face, nodding faintly, a spark of hope in her weary eyes. But I wasn't done. One more thing, I said. While I had access to Nolan's system, I planted surveillance software. I copied all his personal videos onto his hard drive. As far as the cops know, he recorded it all himself. Walt inhaled sharply. You mean the videos of her are now admissible evidence? Exactly, I said. Nolan's not just facing fraud and embezzlement. He'll get hit with illegal surveillance, extortion, and privacy violations. I leaned back, letting it sink in. I also uploaded recordings of his blackmail threats. Vince has them. It's over.